Now this was an exciting book. Hi, this is Anna from Post Me Book. I never quite reached my ambition of finishing this book by, first it was Friday, and it was Sunday. Well, it is Sunday, but I haven't quite finished the book. I've come quite a ways. This is Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon, and I have got quite a way. I have about the odd 100 pages left. No, it's a bit more than 100, perhaps 200 pages left, and I am still completely enjoying this book. It is exciting, so it's a riveting book. Definitely one that I would call gripping, for me anyway. It's about Vern, she's the protagonist, and she's about 13, I think. Another one who's about 13 at the beginning of the book, and she's brought up in a community, a more or less closed community, if you can call it, or a sect or a cult kind of thing, in Caneland, which is overseen by a reverend who preaches every day, tells them what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And supposedly in the beginning, this community is made out of black people and was brought together by people who, they came together because the outside world, which was mainly white people, which is the white people, this is in the US. It's not quite in the days of slavery, but it's sort of got that kind of vibe. So they wanted a safe environment. So in the beginning, that's what it was about. And then there was a reverend who then said that these people were not supposed to go out to the outside world. They were to stick to themselves for their own safety. And Vern was part of this community in the beginning with her mother. But when we meet her, yes, her mother is still around, and they're not very close. But Vern is a very strong-willed person, very strong-willed girl. And at the beginning of the book, she's married off to a man who's a lot older than her. And this seems to be also acceptable in this community. But she's supposed to follow her husband's will, but doesn't really, being headstrong, strong-willed. She really doesn't feel that she fits very well into her community. She's also someone who's an albino. As to whether this actually plays any real role in how the story develops, at this point it's still difficult to know. But of course, being albino, you kind of stand out just because of that. But it might have something to do with how the story develops. So at the beginning of the story, as I said, she's married to someone who's older than her, but she's still very strong-willed. She doesn't always follow what he says, and she gets away with it, and she tries to provoke him by refusing to do what he says sometimes, and she gets away with it. There's an interesting part of the story is at the beginning of the story is what we know is that the people in the cult, in the community, they are tied up or bound to their beds at night, and they have these hauntings, as they call them, or night terrors, which is why supposedly they're bound up at night. And this is an important part of the story. And for Vern, we don't know how much this affects her in the beginning, or what it really means. There's nothing that's really told in the beginning as to what these hauntings are. As the story develops, what I can say is, not to give too much away, is that Vern, she manages to escape from her community one night when everybody's bound and asleep. She manages to escape from her community, and she runs into the forest. And by that time, she was actually pregnant, and she was still quite young. She escapes into the forest, and she gives birth to her two children in the forest, but she knows that someone is after her, because you're not supposed to leave the community. So she knew that people would come trying to get her back, but she manages to stay hidden in the forest, although she knows there's someone there or something there that's always hunting her. And the story develops from here. The exciting thing about this book, what I find gripping, is that you never quite know what these hauntings are, because in the beginning Vern also has these hauntings, and she's aware when she's in the forest. She's more aware or more alive to what's happening, or the things that are there in the forest. But sometimes she doesn't know what's real, what's not real. Is there an animal after her? Is it someone from the community? Where is this person? And the story goes on from here. And as the story develops, you get to know a bit more about what these hauntings are. But still, Rivers Solomon, she manages to still keep you not knowing at the next turn how it's going to be. You think you know what it is, and then you don't know. You know that Vern is developing, but you don't know how she's developing. At one point I was thinking she was a werewolf, but I think she's not a werewolf. I'm still not sure. I don't think she's a werewolf. But even at this point, I don't quite know what she really is, and I think she doesn't quite know what she really is. But we know that she's changing, and as a kid, she manages to survive in the forest, but the story goes on from there. And what makes it really interesting is that we don't quite know what she's becoming and what this means. What we do know is that she does not want to return to the community, and she's making all efforts to escape from and stay away from the community. And what we do know is that someone or something is hunting her because they want her back in the community. She tries to reach out to her mother at one point by giving her a phone call, and her mother hangs up on her because first she tells her to come back, and then she hangs up on her because her and her mother, they weren't very close, but she wanted some kind of connection. When she left the community, she was all alone, and she wanted some kind of connection. So she manages to get to a payphone and ring her mother, who isn't really interested. But the story develops with how she and her children survive in the forest, how she keeps them alive, what goes on from there, from the forest, how their lives continue. Because even her children are quite young, and however, young as they are, we don't actually, because I never quite get a grip. I haven't quite gotten a grip on how old they are, because they seem to be quite developed when it comes to linguistics. They can talk quite well. They manage to survive very well in the forest, considering they're very young. She can leave them for hours on their own. This is when they're a little bit older, for hours on their own. And they survive. They're twins, I should mention. And they survive. So I haven't quite got a grip on how old they are, or whether they are also changed because Vern herself is also changing. That's to say, they're more developed than normal children. Because at some point I'm always wondering, well, how do they manage to live on their own? No, how do the kids manage to be on their own for this period of time? Admittedly, they're probably sleeping, and they've built a camp for themselves, but still. So that's pretty exciting to try and find out. So now I'm at the book is broken up to 3 parts, and now I'm at the 3rd part, which is the last part. So I'm really excited to find out what's happening at the end, what she really is, or what she has actually become. It'll be good to watch a film on this book, actually. But anyway, very exciting book for me. I should be finished by this week in any case. So this one I'll probably just pick it up on the Wednesday Musings. I think I managed to put out the Wednesday Musings last week. Didn't quite find the time to do Friday, so I did a Sunday. I'm still trying to stick to that ambition. So that's this book, and at long last, even if I haven't finished this one, because I have to say I'm more or less a one-book reader. I can't read several books at a time and really give them that attention because the time's not there. But I have actually started. Let me just get it. Empire of Silence. So when I finish Sorrowland, sorry, completely it went out of my head what the title was. Sorrowland, I had to look at the book just to remember. I'm going to start Emperor of Silence. The good thing was, or good or bad, I was forced to return several library books because, I just do not have the time. I'm quite impressed that I didn't have to return this one. I could renew it. So that was good. But I've returned about 5 library books because they wanted them back. So that's good. So this, the pressure of having to read books or find time to read books has been reduced. So now I can pay attention to perhaps this one. And albeit I say that I'm a one book at a time reader, it's not wholly true, because I'm not a person who can just sit down, however gripping a book is, sit down and just continue reading to the end. I have to do something else. I won't say I get bored, but I just can't do that. My interest wanes, not of the book itself, but of reading. So it probably will wane for this one now and again, as it does in all other books. It says nothing about the books themselves, it's just the way I am. So on the side, I am actually reading the Steve Biko book, I Write What I Like. This book has been in the house library forever and a day. I'm not sure whose it is, but I think it's either my brother's or was my brother's. It's looking old and tattered, but just there. Unless this is the way it's supposed to be. No, it is old and tattered, but I've been meaning to read it forever. So I will do it justice and I will read this book, because it just takes me back to the times when I thought these are the things I should read, and I truly feel that this is a book that I should read. So this one I'm reading on the side, and I will finish it. It's not a very long book, or it doesn't look very long, but it's got quite small print. But I think it's one of these books where you don't have to read continuously, because is it a series of letters about Steve Biko? I'm not quite sure. Let's see what it says. Like Nelson Mandela's No Easy to Freedom, Biko's selfless pieces of thought, resilience and long-term faith in a humanely shared planet will influence South Africa's transition to majority rule. That's by the Tribunes probably. And then the Catholic Herald says, an impressive tribute to the depth and range of his thought, covering such diverse issues as basic philosophy of black consciousness, African culture and institutional church, and Western involvement in apartheid. On the 12th of September 1977, Steve Biko was murdered in his prison cell. He was only 31. But his vision and charisma captured in this collection of his work had already transformed the agenda of South Africa's politics. And why I feel I need to read this is because it brings me back to that feeling of revolution, I guess, that was there at these times when you read books like this. And then you look at South Africa now and you think there was so much put into it by these people during the time of apartheid, and still certain things continue that you felt. I should not say we because I'm not South African, but I think I felt sometimes that when you break down the wall, things are going to be so much different. They're going to be so much better. And you think that's going to be the be-all. Bring down the wall and things are going to get better for everybody. And this isn't quite the same. It's never quite black and white. But in some cases, sometimes you do see a big change. And that's not to say the change isn't there. Of course, apartheid is gone, and thank goodness it's gone. But there's still so much reparation that needs to be done, not just here, but in other places, where sometimes you think the change is going to make such a big difference, not just such a difference. So I think that's why I also want to read this book. It reminds me of that we must continue. We must not forget that we must continue working and developing. And I think that's it. So I will end this here. Thank you for watching to the end. It wasn't a very long video, but this is a good thing. And like and subscribe. So until next week, bye bye.